If your experience with Black Ops 6's version of Warzone has been less than positive or a bit of a mixed bag, you're not alone. And the reason for it is probably going to boggle your mind a little bit, because it definitely sent my head for a spin. And no, I'm not just talking about one specific thing that's broken, like audio, which is definitely having its issues. There is actually an overarching reason in the underlying code for Call of Duty as to why Black Ops 6's version of Warzone feels so backwards. Now granted, Black Ops 6's integration has some good positives, and we will talk about that in this video, because there are some quality of life changes that were sorely needed and feel like a step in the right direction. But after doing some fairly rigorous testing myself, I've actually found that there is more than meets the eye to Black Ops 6's integration of Warzone, and we have to talk about it today. If you enjoy this video, please do drop a like, consider subscribing. I'm on the road to 200k subscribers, and quite frankly, I've been doing all sorts of videos in the COD space lately that have been phenomenally supported by you guys, and I tip my hat to you. So many of you may remember that when Black Ops 6 announced its integration with Warzone, there was a bit of a head-scratching segment in the overarching post. It said that as part of Black Ops 6's Warzone integration, we would be returning to the old version of Urzikstan. And it's because obviously the new version of Black Ops 6 is on a slightly different engine to what Modern Warfare 3 was operating on. And they are two entirely different code bases. That is why Warzone, prior to the integration of Black Ops 6, had to be launched from an entirely separate client and wasn't part of COD HQ. There is a new audio system, there is a new anti-cheat at a kernel level, there is basically a whole new code base that separates Modern Warfare 3 and Black Ops 6, even though they have some shared common values. But what if I told you it extended beyond just revisions to Urzikstan? Because having done some testing and played in a bunch of private and custom lobbies to try and figure out what's going on, it isn't just the map. The map was just a random byproduct of having to roll back the engine. What's really broken in Black Ops 6's version of Warzone is that they have rolled back a number of quality of life changes that were made during the Modern Warfare 3 edition of Warzone that has not only completely chalked things like audio and aiming, but has also completely torched frame rate and performance. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I'm going to give you a list of changes in Modern Warfare 3, things that were fixed that are now broken. And I'm going to start with audio, because audio is something that has been a huge negative for the vast majority of people on the internet. Now granted, I did end up cooking a lot of you, saying that it was just you using sound equalization and it actually wasn't that bad, but after doing some testing, I will happily put my hands up and say I was dead wrong. A number of significant audio fixes are entirely missing in this codebase for Black Ops 6. The first one is audio priority on players. During the lifecycle of Modern Warfare 3, there was a change that was made that deliberately reduced the volume and audio of your own footsteps, your own effects like reloading, and all of your teammates around you. And this was a deliberate change. The reason for it is because when your character emits too much audio in your headphones, it clogs up the audio priority system. That's now gone. So you will hear your own parachute, your own stomping, your teammates' parachutes mantling and stomping at pretty much maximum volume. So this fix that existed in Modern Warfare 3 has been completely rolled back. And this gets exponentially worse when you combine it with the new spatial audio and head-related transfer function. This audio should give you better positional audio by definition, and it absolutely should be operating in a way that's greatly meant to improve the audio systems within Warzone. But as a result of them not transferring over this fix in the Modern Warfare 3 era, you're now hearing your own audio so loudly in the spatial audio space and reverb from that audio so loudly that you basically can't hear a thing that's going on from any other footstep, any other reload, or anything else in the game. Let alone when you start layering on things like kill streaks in the distance, and all of these other things that happen in the game, like gunfire. Right now, that one fix alone is pretty much the reason you can't hear a damn thing, and why you can't hear other people's footsteps. Here's another change in Modern Warfare 3 that hasn't been ported across to Black Ops 6. Now, during the Modern Warfare 3 era of the game, a really fundamental improvement was made to the audio priority of kill streaks, because it was found in my testing and in some of my experiments that you would hear kill streaks called in as far away as 400 or 500 meters, even though they absolutely had zero chance of affecting you. Well, guess what didn't get ported across? That exact change. You can now hear a cluster strike that's been called in from 500 meters away, the other side of the map, and it will be in your audio priority mix and will be prioritized over footsteps. This fix was made in Modern Warfare 3 that not only reduced the sound of kill streaks and took them out of the audio priority queue for things like footsteps, it's gone. It's not in the Black Ops 6 code. Based on my testing, you will hear airstrikes, mortar strikes, and other kill streaks from several miles away for absolutely no particular reason. So in the process of developing this new engine for Black Ops 6, all of these quality of life changes that were in the pipeline had not been ported over. And it isn't just necessarily a Call of Duty issue. This is something that used to plague the Battlefield franchise many, many years ago. Battlefield, in response to that, created a development team called Battlefield Central Technology that is in charge of making sure that fixes and engine fixes transfer between games. Call of Duty very clearly have not done that. And if you want another example of that, the actual transfer of Urzikstan itself is kind of busted. I can't tell whether the character models for Black Ops 6 are smaller, or if the physical camera at which your character faces out into the world has changed, but Urzikstan feels bigger by accident. It feels like the scaling is off by like 30%. So if you've been wondering why it looks like the map has been designed for Gary Barlow's son, you're probably correct. Visually, something has changed, and I think it's a great indicator of the underlying jank that seems to have occurred from Black Ops 6 being in development at the same time as Modern Warfare 3 making substantial engine changes. And because of all of this, there's lots of other glitches that have re-entered the fray that you may remember from the Modern Warfare 3 or even Modern Warfare 2 era. For example, in Urzikstan, there is the memory leak that turns grass and mud textures into looking like Play-Doh or clay. That is back in the game. Mouse input and latency is also really spotty. In the base client for Black Ops 6, mouse input feels really solid and actually quite responsive depending on whether or not you're using legacy input. In Warzone, it seems to be very up and down. Sometimes it seems to be great, other times it seems to be terrible. Another change from Modern Warfare 3 was centering. It was deliberately changed so that sway and centering would be removed from the vast majority of weapons to create a better raw mouse input for the vast majority of players. And this would also technically apply to controller as well, because sway and centering does identically affect both platforms, but it's far more noticeable on the KBM input. This change, another really solid quality of life improvement, has not made it across into Black Ops 6. It doesn't exist. They've tried to fix a couple of things by the looks of things going into Season 1, but again, another core engine change has not made it across. And honestly, performance too. Now, I don't really know what's going on in this category, and I can't tell whether this is by design or not, but it seems like the rendering distance for Urzikstan has been set to maximum and maximum detail. My performance in Urzikstan has gone from damn near 300 frames in places to pretty much just falling off a cliff. I'm talking maybe a 30 to 40% performance impact, and your mileage may vary depending on the type of card that you're using. So universally across the board, a number of key and significant changes, especially to the core engine base of Modern Warfare 3, have just not made it into Black Ops 6. They're not part of Season 1. I highly doubt they'll be part of Season 1 Reloaded. And we've taken 2 steps forward, and there are some good quality of life changes in this game, and 5 steps back. If you think of Modern Warfare 3 as version 0.0 to version 1.0, we're basically somewhere around 0.2. This game has been pretty much taken back near a year and a half in terms of quality of life. That's really stripped away key fundamentals of how this game's operated and how it's significantly improved over past iterations of Warzone. So that's the first major buck stop. The first major part of why everything feels wrong, why centering feels wrong, why mouse input feels spotty, why audio feels chalked, why character scaling on Urzikstan feels wrong, is that this port just hasn't accounted for a number of really important changes that Modern Warfare 3 has made over the last year, and credit to Sledgehammer and Raven for making them. But the next big thing is that generally speaking, there seems to be a lot of inconsistency in Black Ops 6's performance. And I'm not just talking about frame rate. Damage multipliers for weapons seem to be all over the place, and if you look online, opinions about time to kill range from it's too slow to it's way too fast. Now, I don't know what's occurring for this. I haven't managed to do enough testing to validate what appears to be going on. But if I was to hazard a guess, I would say that weapons don't have the correct values for plates in some instances, or are ignoring the values that they're supposed to have for plates in some instances. It's difficult to say for sure, and I need to do more testing to validate all of this. But right now, shooting somebody with something like a Model L in one situation and then in a second situation, by the looks of things, produces two radically different time to kills. It could be how they're handling hitboxes, it could be how they're handling damage ranges, but I'd be willing to bet it's something to do with multipliers that's not registering correctly. I've already touched on spatial audio, but arguably one of the most disappointing parts of all of this is that the spatial audio engine, if it had the Modern Warfare 3 fixes, is actually really, really good. Now, I know this sounds really tongue-in-cheek, and I know a lot of you are going to be like, he said the audio's good, take him down. Hang on a second. Now, if you strip back all of the Modern Warfare 3 changes and you don't make any noise yourself, and you just listen around to the soundscape, you can actually see that the spatial audio engine, with the correct adjustments, will be phenomenal. You can get PUBG-style audio where you can identify the distance at which a gunfight is happening on a different side of the map over range really, really accurately now. And that's something I've wanted to see in COD for a long, long time. But because they didn't copy over all of the good changes from Modern Warfare 3, it's been completely muddied, it's a total mess, and spatial audio is not working well. And right now, I would highly recommend in Warzone turning off enhanced headphone mode and HRTF until fixes are made. And then on top of that, we have the usual integration jank of certain attachments not working properly, certain blueprints not working properly, loadouts seemingly resetting at random. And unfortunately, I have to say I have encountered cheaters already. Granted, it wasn't a huge amount across 12 hours of gameplay, but one entire team just straight up rage hacking with seemingly no ban in place. The last thing I'll say in terms of things that just haven't made sense before I touch on some of the good things, because there are some really good things in Black Ops 6 that are worth talking about, is that it's a shame to me that in order to get the fluidity that Black Ops 6 can provide, you have to dig through 30 different menus. If you want a really fluid experience in Black Ops 6, enable Prioritize Interact under your combat settings, turn off Tactical Sprint interrupting your reload in the settings, and also enable Sprint Assist but not necessarily automatic tac sprint, and change tac sprint to single tap. You'll get pretty much the best of both worlds in terms of sliding, whilst also being able to tac sprint at a whim by clicking into your analog stick once. The same applies to mouses as well and keyboards. A single tap of the button will change it. But there's something to be said about the fact that you need to bury through 35 different menus and understand how 3 key settings can entirely change the fluidity of how Warzone works in order for you to experience the game. They should just be this way by default. Right now, you can instantly loot things off the ground, almost instantly and perfectly with no problems at all. You can loot really fast, you can plate really quickly, you can do all of this without being interrupted by various animations. And it's just not available to people because it's buried in settings and it feels clunky and it feels weird. There are lots of really good changes in Black Ops 6's version of Warzone that make it a fun experience. Omni movement by itself with the right settings is absolutely phenomenal, and I genuinely couldn't picture Warzone without Omni movement going forward. You can now pick up self-revives if you're downed and there's one on the floor nearby you. Live pings have had their duration cut from 3 seconds to 2 to make more balanced combat. There is even things like plate replacement, which has been increased in speed. There are lots of really thoughtful quality of life changes, like increasing the overall amount it takes to revive somebody to make combat experiences feel a bit more like the original Warzone and make downs feel rewarding as opposed to people pulling out 6 self-revives from their backpacks. And backpacks and inventory systems are entirely gone, so you actually have to have gunfights instead of spamming 16 grenades and 4 airstrikes in order to win a fight. You can get unlimited tac sprint by switching out to your knife, which is a really nice change, and they seemingly have solved the issue of things like lag whilst interacting with items and interacting with the buy station, so long as you are using the Prioritize Interact experience button that I've referenced before. The game in a lot of ways feels phenomenally better, and then in other ways, and ways that matter the most, like audio, feels phenomenally worse, and it's really frustrating that we're going into this sort of crescendo again of backwards and forth and things just not working correctly. I think if I'm Call of Duty, I need to start thinking more long term here. You know, there are no excuses for this anymore. I understand from a technical standpoint, as somebody who has worked with game developers, who has been paid for to talk to game developers about certain things and expectations, and understands how these engines fundamentally work. That going from an older build to a newer build has probably been a lot of work for the development team. They've also decoupled the files from Warzone from the base game, has also probably been a lot of technical debt. But the reality is, to the average player who is picking up Black Ops 6 and trying the new version of Warzone, they are once again witnessing yet another integration. I don't know how many there's been now, maybe 4 or 5, that just seems to be a total mess. And if they keep doing this, and every large integration becomes an excuse for the game to take 10 steps backwards, Call of Duty Warzone will be replaced. And I genuinely do believe a solid Battlefield Battle Royale is definitely taking full aim at this game right now, because we're talking about another 4 to 6 months for them to resolve things that were already fixed in the first place. I'd say for me as a content creator, the last 24 hours have been super disappointing. There have been some really great changes that I've really enjoyed. Identifying loot on the floor is easier, picking it up is easier. The fact the inventory system is gone fundamentally changes the way Warzone plays and makes it more competitive. We don't have 17 self-revives anymore, 45 different airstrikes. The game makes a lot of changes that makes the game more like a battle royale, more competitive, makes it more thoughtful, but just absolutely throws all of it out the window by taking every inch of quality of life and dumping it. Last night, I was willing to say that this update felt like an 8 out of 10. And it did for me at the time. You know, there was generally some natural physics that felt better for vehicles. Character lighting felt a little bit better. Just, you could see base quality improvements that were really good. But within the space of 10 hours, you really notice all of the stuff that's gone missing. And if my testing's anything to go by, it means that a number of QOL changes just haven't made the cut. And probably won't until maybe Season 2, Season 3. That's about it for this video today, folks. This isn't just a video of me dunking on Call of Duty. You know, I want this game to be fun, and I really do support Call of Duty heading in the right direction. But there's just things that don't make sense here. I mean, you can't even customize your UI in Warzone, a promised feature from day one. There's just a lot missing and a lot that needs to be fixed in a very short space of time. As always, folks, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you again in the next one. Please do make sure you drop a like and subscribe. We're on the road to 200k. And thank you again for all your support recently on all my videos.